Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Hodinkee Radio. We are all back from Geneva, and to be honest, guys, after Watches and Wonders, we're all a bit exhausted by new watch releases, so we decided it was time to do something fun. Another watch draft. And this time, we're tightening the parameters a little bit in hopes of getting some more variety on the table. Before we get to all that, though, I'm going to bring in today's guests who are going to be drafting and building 4-watch collections with me. First of all, Danny Milton, fresh off a plane from Geneva, and like 2 months in Europe, back on American soil. How are we doing, Mr. Milton?
I'm still adjusting to the time zone, Tony. Got a Ricola on my mouth because I like the way they feel, and I'm feeling good.
He likes the way they feel. Mr. Stacey, James Stacey, calling from the Great White North. How are you doing today, sir?
Couldn't possibly be better. You know, I love a draft, and I'm here to party. Let's go.
Let's go, baby. Okay, and then he made an appearance in Geneva, and that's right. We saw the comments, folks. We're bringing him back, fan favorite, Jonathan McWhorter. I don't know his title. He's a video producer extraordinaire of some sort, which maybe he's his official title now. Jonathan. Senior Vice President, video producer, Jonathan McWhorter. How are you doing today?
Can you see the fear in my eyes? I'm actually terrified. I made a spreadsheet. I forgot everything I know about watches, and I hope I don't let down all 3 of my fans that requested me be here. We'll see how.
I never forget about more watches than when we do a draft.
Me too. I don't know.
You're good.
I don't know any watches now.
The real draft comes in the recap episode in like 3 weeks when we think of all the things that we forgot. Like I think last time we forgot Omega and AP existed and other such brands.
Stop saying picks.
I know. I built half my team. Okay,
guys. I don't think it matters if he says picks. We talked about Omega for 15 minutes before that draft, and none of us said a single Omega watch during the draft.
That's right. Well, like I said, guys, we're a little tired of new releases, but we're doing a draft this time around focused on 21st century watches. So watches released 2000 and beyond. So this is what we're going to do. Any watch released in the year 2000 or later is eligible, except for the releases we saw at Watches and Wonders last week. Again, kind of like last time, let's stay away from piece uniques or anything weird like that. This is the big one, guys. This is the big one. So pay attention to this one, Danny. Once a watch has been picked from a brand, no other watch from that brand can be picked, i.e., once an Omega has been picked or any other brand has been picked, no more Omegas for anyone. So that means each of us are building a 4-watch collection, right? So that means there's going to be 16 different brands represented, I think, if I'm doing my math correctly.
What if James picks a Cellini? Could I pick a Rolex sports watch?
Sure.
No. I do have a question, though. I do have a question, a point of clarification. I understand that that a brand is exclusionary. So once a brand is used, we can't use it again. Mm-hmm. When you're picking a watch, let's say the model in question came out in the 90s, but the exact version, generation, some spec came out later. Is it when the original, like, let's say for fun, I'm picking a Rolex sports model that came out in the late 80s, but they made an evolution in the early 2000s. Is that a late 80s watch or is that a 2004 watch?
Man, what watch would you be talking about, James? As long as the watch was being produced in the 2000s or beyond, that's fine. I don't want to get too specific about it. That would be
so. It's not about necessarily when the watch came out. It's whether or not you could have bought it in the 2000s.
Yeah. If you could have walked into a store and bought it new in the 2000s or later, I would consider it eligible for this draft.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, that's a lot of leeway. I don't know if you want to give that to some of the other people on this draft, but sure.
It's too hard to be like, oh, the watch over your shoulder, for example, for those watching on YouTube, was released in 1988 or whatever it is. And then you also get into weird things like they changed the lume in this year, Like, I want this watch, you know what I mean? So I think as long as the watch you're naming was produced in the 21st century, we're good. Otherwise, we're gonna be splitting hairs pretty quickly.
That's what we're here for. Let's split hairs.
Okay, guys. And then we're going to keep the categories the same as last time. So it's going to be a sport, a dress, a complication, and a budget watch under $1,000 is the budget category. Does that make sense to everyone?
Oh, yeah. But not actually, though. But I'll ask questions as we go.
Man, we could have a number of podcasts about what each of those categories mean, right? So I'm not going to get too sort of restrictive on what it means to be a dress watch. We're not going to go with this old-fashioned definition where it has to be in precious metal and there's no running seconds and it's got to be ultra thin and all these things. We're not going to get too sort of prescriptive about those things. we'll keep them a little bit broad. Okay. As always, we're going to do a snake draft. And since our friend Jonathan is a newbie, he's going to be going first. After that, we're going to be going in order of finish from the last draft, which means Danny will go next, and then James, and then I will be going last again. And I think those are all the rules. Guys, have I clarified this enough, or have I just added confusion to the matter?
Both, I think.
Great. That's what I'm going for. The goal, guys, might be just to discombobulate you so much so that I win this draft.
Just so we're clear, I'm picking third. I'm in the middle of nowhere. You left me in the desert.
No man's land.
Without a cup of water.
That's right. You're not getting the hot corner like me and Jonathan, which is always tough. I know you liked that last time around.
I love a hot corner.
Okay. Well, Jonathan, we're keeping it with you, my friend. For 1-1, the first overall pick, you've got 4 categories to choose from, any number of brands. It's a lot of pressure for, well, your second podcast appearance, but your first sort of episode where there's not 10 other people. I'm trying to stall to give you a little bit of time here to make sure you really think about this pick while you're on the clock. But do you have a first?
Is there a pick clock?
A first? Well, if you take too much time, there might be. But do you have a pick for the best? Your watch that you're going to pick for the 21st century that just epitomizes this century of watches for you?
Wow, the amount of pressure. So I do have a pick, and there was a great number of brands that I could have chosen from, and I was doing everything in my power to not pick a certain brand, but given my first, I get the first pick. This is like my second appearance on the podcast.
Give into the dark side.
I really want to
take it from Danny.
Yeah. I feel like my best move here is to be an agent of chaos in a sort of way. And like, if we're eliminating brands,
are you going to pick a watch?
I'm going to pick a watch.
Okay,
but we're on a
cool.
podcast, Danny. Is this not it? Like, is this not the purpose of a podcast? Is to just
filibuster?
Specificity is the soul of narrative.
Yeah. I'm going with the Rolex Explorer 2 16570 black dial.
I quit.
So what better way to start it off than to eliminate Rolex?
I'm out.
Rolex gone. Danny gone.
I've lost interest in the entire draft.
Yeah, Danny might hang up. James set up that pick for you a few minutes ago. I can tell he's devastated.
I was talking about a different watch, to be fair.
Oh, were you?
Doesn't matter now. It's also gone.
Yeah. Man, it's funny to me, Jonathan. I mean, let's just talk about this for just a second. This is the Rolex we're gonna choose from the last 24 years. That's gonna be the one representative from the crown for 21st century watchmaking. Just unpack the thinking for just a moment.
Yeah, unpack it for me.
Okay, let's unpack it. Well, my understanding of the rules was that this wasn't necessarily best, or this is my 4-watch collection, and this is a watch that I really do like. It's probably my favorite Rolex. I love a GMT. The school of James Stacey. I'm a big GMT fan. This is the one. Great size. You can't miss. Come on, Danny.
It's a stinky pick.
Jonathan, don't you wear a certain other Rolex like kind of a lot?
I do, but that would be too easy for this pick, for this draft, and I wanted to make some waves.
Well, listen, if you want to trade your Daytona for an Explorer 2, I know a guy. I'm happy to make that trade for you if you just want to do that straight up. Maybe we can sort of make your fantasy watch draft dreams come true. We could talk after the show about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it, but it's definitely not going to happen.
Sure. Okay, well, it's an interesting first pick. Rolex is off the board. That brings us to our second selector of the day. Danny, you're on the clock. I know this is going to be difficult for you. What do we got?
I feel like there's a methodology difference between all of us how we're approaching this thing. I still don't really understand the rules entirely, but
what don't you understand?
I'm not sure. We'll get there when we get there.
You don't know what you don't know.
How could I have made it any clearer?
Listen. I'm gonna go sports watch first.
Okay.
And since I couldn't choose Rolex, I'm gonna choose the other Rolex. I'm gonna choose Tudor. And I'm going the OG Black Bay, blue bezel, black dial.
What?
Yeah.
Weirdest draft of all time already.
Let me explain my pick.
Yeah, unpack this, Danny. Unpack this.
I prefer it if you didn't. honestly.
So I'm approaching this draft as like watches that actually mean something to the last 24 years, and I think the Tudor Black Bay is meaningful. To I mean, you say what you will.
I'm on board so far, but then you take some sort of weird turn, and I think I fall off the back of the turnip truck.
Does it matter which color I pick? Really? Does it really matter to any of us?
It matters to me, Danny.
Because it sounds like you want me to pick the burgundy one. It sounds like that's what you'd like me to do, but I don't want to do that because then I'd have to. It's got to be something I'd wear, right? So taking the watch that sets the stage. I'm talking about the Etta-based smiley situation, and just the one that I'd wear. So there's my pick.
Okay, here's where I will give you your flowers just a little bit, not too much. I do agree if you're going to choose a Tudor, it's it's got to be the wearable one for you. But man, what an interesting pick. James, you want to add anything?
I just like I mean like like sure it's don't get me wrong, it is a great watch. It's just it's wild to not go with the watch that like you own a 58.
I know, but that's not you. Like I said, different methodologies. Like for sure, 58's great, but 58 wouldn't exist without the Black Bay.
Fine, there's Tudor off the board.
I can't believe it.
Oh man, 58 was. I had Tudor on my. If Tudor fell to me, it was going to be the 58.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I had a Tudor as well.
Not anymore. You can make a case. You can make a case for a few other
6
watches.
Rolexes. What are you going to do? Come on now.
I mean, you're what you could do is start by understanding the rules. I mean, just start there.
I thought I could pick Rolex in every round.
6 is way too many.
So a 4-watch draft. So
I thought we had bonus picks.
Danny spent his entire time. He spent his entire time thinking about like the most important Rolexes of the past 24 years and forgot about the rest of the draft. James.
Okay. My pick I'll go with sport just to keep with the format. And this is admittedly a bit of a tough option, but I think I'm landing on this one and I'm happy with it. It came out in the year 2000. I needed at least one that was timed perfectly, and it's an Omega, so that's going to be off the board, and it's the Seamaster 300 2254. It's my favorite modern Omega. I've owned one. I absolutely love it. I don't really know why I sold it. I wish I still had it. Beautiful sword hands, kind of the last vestigial wave of the MOD design. Matte black wave dial, aluminum bezel, the slipperiest bezel you've ever come across.
Yeah.
Just very, very difficult to time anything with it, but it was thin and it had an ETA derived caliber. These are still to today fantastic watches in the secondhand sense, and I absolutely love them. If you can get one with a non-AC dial, obviously it's not a 2254, it's something else. After that one I also really like, but that's my pick, a 2254 sword hand Omega.
Yeah, great pick. It sort of brings Rolex, Tudor, Omega, probably 3 of the brands we would have expected to go off the board quickest. I'm bummed I'm not going to get a Speedmaster now. I'm bummed that no one else is going to get a Speedmaster, but other than that, great pick, James. Great pick. Guys, are you ready for my first pick? Well, I've got 2 picks, actually. I guess this will be my sports watch. I'm going to go with the Bulgari Octo Finissimo. Probably my favorite sports watch of the past, 10 years, however long it's been now. Can you believe it's been that long, guys? I'm going to do the sketch one, the original 10th anniversary sketch from 2022, I believe. I think that's a cool watch. I saw a sketch in person for the first time at Watches and Wonders, not this one, but the new one with the movement. But I like the original sketch. That's just the standard automatic with the sketch dial. I think it's cool. It's a cool ode to the designer. And, to me, I think my goal for this draft, this is kind of what I'm setting up here, is I want my collection at the end of this. We'll see how it goes, right? But I want it to really represent what the last 24 years of watchmaking has been. And to me, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo is like perhaps the biggest success story from a design and new collection perspective. So I'm really glad that this is sort of the sports watch in my collection. It wears a little bit big on my wrist. It's this gladiator cuff sort of situation, but eventually they're going to release a smaller one for me and I'm going to be the first in line to buy that. But in the meantime, I'm glad to have a Bulgari Octo Finissimo in my collection.
That's a cool pick, Tony.
That's nice.
Great choice.
That's very
Thanks,
cool.
guys. Thanks, guys. It means a lot to me.
It is a wonderful bracelet on that watch, I will say.
Oh yeah, there's something else on wrist. They really are a treat.
Yeah, they are. I wasn't really worried about Bulgari being taken off the list. I was worried that someone would take the Octo Finissimo, but I guess since all of you guys took sport, maybe I shouldn't have been super concerned, though there are complications in the collection that you could have taken. The second watch I'm going to take is a deeper cut, guys. I'm going to take Patek off of the board. I'm going to take the Patek 3670, guys. This is a deep cut pick from 2011. As the story goes, Patek found 16 old caliber 13130 movements, I believe. These are the old sort of Valjoux-based movements they used in like the 1463, the 130 chronograph. So they found these movements from 1955 and they said, hey, we should put these in a modern watch. So they cased them up in 16 steel cushion case watches, sold them for, I can't remember, $250,000 or something like that. But an absolutely awesome sort of concept for a watch. And I'm not going to be able to get a vintage watch because this is a 21st century watch draft. So this is as close as I could come. One of the coolest Pateks to me released in the past 24 years. And that's what's going to take Patek off the board for everyone else. Danny, you seem to be smirking the entire time I was saying that.
It's a great pick.
I was literally scrolling through Patek as you were making the pick, because unlike some people in this draft, I didn't make a spreadsheet. I'm winging it.
Oh, what a flex.
That's tough for you, considering normally winging it, you'd only have to go to one website.
I thought those were the rules also, that we were all winging it. I thought that we made an agreement before we started the pod. We were all going to wing it.
Tony, that's a deceptively cool pick.
That's a great choice.
Very cool.
Fun story, cool watch. One I hadn't thought about in several years.
I will say I texted an old friend from Hodinkee this morning and I said, hey, what are the best Pateks released from the past 24 years? And they gave me this idea, and otherwise I would have forgotten about it. So, I used my phone a friend on this one. Shout out to them. Okay, James, your next pick, my friend.
This is real tough. Tony, was yours was Complication, so I'll follow suit with Complication, and we are going. I can't go Patek, so 5935A off the caliber, off the board here. Let's see. I'm gonna go JLC. And this is that was the look I was looking for, Danny. I'm just trying to see what websites you're on the other tab there. And I'm going with a favorite JLC. It is complicated, but it's not what you're probably thinking. It's a chronograph, and it's the Deep Sea chronograph that they made and stopped making a few years back. A watch I wanted and will definitely own at some point. A favorite of mine. Imagine if you took kind of a mid-century sports dive watch and crossed it with a chronograph, you get a pretty cool watch in the end. I've been a fan of these since they came out, which I want to say was about 2012, but I could be off a little bit in that vein, but definitely after 2000. And I love these a lot, so that's my pick for Complicated, and it takes Jaeger off the board.
Yeah, great pick. I had a few JLCs on my list, so bummed to see them being pulled, but a worthy choice, I must say. Danny, were you on the JLC website after? You're just kind of racking your brain for brands, I'm sure.
I was literally on the JLC website when James made the pick. This is not great. Is it my choice yet? Is it my turn?
Yes, it is your turn, actually. It is your turn. So what website are you on now? What do you want to pick?
Well, I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you. I'm going to go with my pick. I'm going to take Complication. I'm going to take AP off the board for the crew here. Anyone on the AP website? Anyone?
Not anymore.
I'm going with the RD2.
Nice. Great pick.
Ultra thin perpetual and platinum. Just really sick watch. I think a watch that is emblematic of the mid-teens. Is that what we would call that these days? The teens?
In what way, Danny?
Because it strikes me as that next evolution of AP's sort of, I don't know, revival in the modern context. So like obviously like Royal Oak, auction darling, vintage darling. From a concept perspective, I think the brand going hard in the paint on the like actual Royal Oak design template with an ultra thin perpetual calendar just shows maybe the early stages of doubling down on that watch as sort of like a platform prior to the code even being something it was probably thinking about at the time. And I just think that we've seen so much development there over the years. Probably there's some fatigue, but when this watch came out, the fatigue had not even begun to set in. It was just kind of pure excitement. And I still look at that watch with sort of the same feelings I had when it came out. And man, if I could get that platinum ultra thin perpetual on my wrist, it'd be quite a thing.
Deeply cool watch.
Yeah, good pick. I had in my notes, I had AP, RD, whatever, and I was going to make a sort of a game time decision on whether I wanted the 2 or the 3 or a sleeper pick, even the 4, the Universal from last year. But I think it's a worthy choice for complication. And that brings us to Jonathan for his second pick.
All right. So
And your
my
third
second
pick.
pick, second and third. That's right. So I thought we were going, at least the way your sheet shows it, sport dress, complication, and then budget. I guess we clarification of rules. I guess we just pick whatever category we want.
You're good. You're good. Play into whatever category you like.
Yes.
All right. Well, at this point, I'm set up for a good 1, 2, 2, 3 pick. My complication pick is going to be from Vacheron. I'm going to take Vacheron off the table. And I was torn between 2 watches, either the Corne de Vache chronograph, but a beautiful watch, very cool. We actually did an LE at one point, but it felt a little simple as far as a chronograph being my complicated pick. So I'm actually choosing the 1942 steel triple calendar with the cool like bathtub claw lugs, kind of an eggshell like white dial triple calendar. It's just a really cool watch. And if I'm picking 4 watches from the past 24 years, can you believe it? Then that's going to be my complicated pick.
Nice, good call.
Yeah, decent choice. I saw you throwing shade at my chronograph when you said, "Oh, I don't want just a chronograph for my complication."
Or mine.
Don't think we didn't catch that. I had a note in my sort of my big board. I said for Vacheron, I said choose a lay historique something or other, and you certainly did that. So I commend you for that.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate
do you want to make your second choice as well?
I sure do.
Third, to be fair.
Third.
Your second choice in this particular hot corner.
Third overall.
We're both right.
Jonathan,
thanks.
with your third pick?
My third pick, the Lange Saxonia Thin, the sparkly dial, 205.086.
This is one of my faves of all time. I've seen this watch a few times.
An incredibly cool watch. And like my MO is usually something old and gold for a dress watch. I've said that before. Second time I'm going to say it. But we can't do old here. So as far as a newer dress watch, white gold, what the heck is that dial made of? Anyways,
dreams. Made of dreams, Jonathan.
That's what it feels like, and that's what I feel like when I look at it. Like it's like really, really, really cool watch. And as far as a dress watch goes.
Yeah, it's Saxonia, apparently there should be a Saxonia in every draft, and it's always going to be sort of the correct choice for just a simple classic dress watch. So,
can't miss.
So yeah, you can't miss. Well chosen. That brings us back to Danny.
Yes. Can I make a point of clarification?
Please.
Maybe a question. Cartier is still on the board, yeah?
Ooh. Yep. Not for long, it sounds like.
With my first pick in this round, my third pick overall in this draft, I will be selecting the Cartier Santos Dumont Lacquer edition from 2022. The rose gold, I guess you would call it maybe taupe, tan, whatever color it was. Green strap. This was a watch that I wrote it in my headline for that show. It stole the show. I still believe that. It was like a hot watch in the face of a lot of hot watches that year. A good friend of ours, shout out Zach Blass, owns this watch. So whenever I see him, I get jealous because that was a tough watch to come by. Limited edition, whole thing. Just a killer watch. This is my dress watch category, to be clear. I consulted a wrist shot James took of me at Watches and Wonders 2022, and it would be a great dress choice for me if I could ever get my hands on one.
Killer choice. I saw one the other day, and I thought to myself, is this the best modern Cartier? And I think your pick, Danny, sort of solidifies that it may be. It may be the best one of the past 24 years. Certainly there are more complicated watches from Cartier,
but this is the dress category. So.
Are there better looking ones? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Sure.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Hey, do you like it better than the lacquer ones that they did this year?
Way better. I like them way better than the lacquer ones they did last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I agree. Sometimes they get it right the first time. James, your next pick.
Hello.
You've got 2 left. You've got dress and budget. Where are we going?
Dress and budget. We're going for dress.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out which way Danny would go, if it was going to be Cartier or maybe something else. So I had to knock my Cartier off the list, but that's okay. I'm going Grand Seiko. It's a dress watch that I pick in most drafts, so it can't be really surprising for those the draft scholars. And this is the SBGW 252. It's the, like 2017, 2016 recreation of the brand's original dress watch. I absolutely adore these. I get, every couple of years I get a chance to see one and try it on again. The case size is perfect. The dial is beautiful. In a world where we're talking about things like Longa and Cartier, it was in the same list with all of those, and I'm thrilled to have it. I think it also kind of like lines up nicely with the little collection I'm building here.
Is that the same dress watch you chose last time around?
Almost certainly. I mean, it's possible. It was definitely on the list. I'm a big fan.
Almost certain,
man. Almost certainly. Okay, we love that. Yeah, Grand Seiko finally off the board. A worthy choice indeed. There were a few others that I had on the list as well. Okay. My next pick, guys. I've got 2 more picks and then I'm done. So this is going to be really interesting. I've got dress and I've got budget. I guess it doesn't really matter what order I go in. I'm going to do my dress watch pick first. I'm going to see if you guys will allow this. I'm going to choose a Journe Resonance. So the subscription Resonance was released in 2000 or introduced in 2000. So you can get like a really important, perhaps one of the most important, technically speaking, watches of the past 24 years, released in 2000. Still a dress watch to me, right? I mean, I think that thing slips under a cuff, as they say. The subscription one, so like the original one that like it's where the story began. To me, is there a better story in watchmaking? I don't know. So that would be my dress watch if you'll allow it.
I allow it. I think a dress watch is whatever you want it to be.
I think this watch is dressy, to be fair. I don't necessarily agree with Danny, but I do think that this is a dressy watch.
I agree with Danny.
I think I agree with Danny in this particular instance because it allows me to have that as my dress watch. Okay. And nice. now I'm going to choose my budget watch, guys. And this is a spicy one. I'm looking at my notes to make sure I've got something I can pick. Again, these are my rules, so I suppose I'm allowing it by sort of saying this, but I'm going to choose the Seiko SKX 013.
The mini 007.
The mini 007. Look, guys, it was one of the first watches I bought way back in the day, and the 007 is a bit of a big boy for me, so I'm going 013. Sorry to the purists if that may offend anyone. I don't think so. It's the same watch, just a little bit smaller. So that's my budget pick, and that fills out my 21st century draft.
That's a fun 4 watch you got there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll do a recap here at the end when everyone's got their 4 watches all set and ready to go. But first, before we do that, James has to choose his budget watch, it looks like.
Got to pick my budget. So I also had a Seiko, but thankfully it wasn't the only thing on the list. So Seiko's off the list. Kudos to them. SKX 013 is a great choice. I like that quite a bit. I'm a little torn between the two, and maybe we'll do a little segment at the end about the ones we couldn't get or couldn't pick. I've got 4 watches. I will have 4 watches. The 3 I've got now are all mechanical. I really enjoy having a quartz watch, whether it be to set my other watches against or to have some other options. And certainly in the budget category, it makes lots of sense. So I'm going with a deeply me watch, and one that I know none of you guys have on your list, but it's the Citizen Aqualand, the 2007 17W, the Lume dial. I wear mine almost like probably weekly. I'm very fortunate to have like a lot of watches laying around, but that's a watch that like never even makes it back to the watch case. It just sits on a desk or on a nightside table. It's the most comfortable giant watch in existence. It's absolutely massive, but it's really easy to wear. I love the Lume dial. I love that if I want the chronograph or the second time zone, the date, it's all there on that little thing. I've got a real soft spot in my in the enthusiast side of my heart for like analog digital combined displays, Digi watches, and this one's very high on that list. So I felt I needed a cool quartz kind of oddball watch, and I'm not sure it gets cooler or weirder than an Aqualand. So that's where I landed.
Yeah, James, the last draft we did a few months ago, your collection that you built was kind of wild. It was kind of out there. We had a Haldeman, Tourbillon, some other things.
You threw us all off at the end of that draft, James.
Never let him know what's happening.
We'll go through it in a second here, but we've got a very James Stacey collection. We're back to basics this time around, so we love to see it. That brings us
James.
to
Thank you.
Great pick. Danny, your last and final pick. I will say, like last time, we have all saved our budget for the very end again. Seems to be a common theme among these. But Danny, your last pick and your budget pick.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
I knew this
You're
was
not
going
allowed to pick a Rolex, and you can't get one for under.
Tony knows
what
why
you're going to ask.
Yeah, and I feel like it's fair.
Is it whether it was $1,000 when it was released or what it's at now?
No. It's whether it's
okay.
if it's two brands, and one of them is off the board, but one of them isn't.
Oh, you're going Moonswatch.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, if I can weigh in on this, it's a swatch.
Yeah, I think it's a swatch. I think that's a fair choice.
I think this is like no brainer for me. Budget watch of the last 24 years. So I'm gonna go Moonswatch. I'm just gonna, for the sake of fun, gonna go Neptune because it's just a fun colorway. But that's my choice. I don't need to say any more words about it. I've emptied my brain of all thoughts on this watch, but it is like it was a moment that has not been replicated by any other watch that I can recall in the last 24 years. So
yeah,
this is my choice.
Nice.
Yeah, Moonswatch Milton, a good choice. Jonathan, you are closing us out with your final pick and your budget pick.
All right. I was worried we would get all the way to this point and I would have nothing to. I would be strapped to think of something. Mostly because, well, I think I'm going to go with the G-Shock. It was my first instinct, and I love mine. I never thought I would own a G-Shock, and then now I have probably 5 or 6, all from Hodinkee, all LEs except one, my first one, the DW 5600, just little square case, nice and small. I got little baby wrists, so I need a smaller watch, but can do anything, can go anywhere, and James brought up a good point. In my 4-watch collection, if I have no other watches, I need something to set the other watches against. So the DW 5600, I can't remember which designation, but the one that resets itself against like the atomic clock every night, as long as you have a line of sight or signal. Cool watch, can do anything, and it'll help keep my other ones in line.
Well, guys,
it's a classic.
A classic. You guys have all chosen quartz watches for your budget pick, so that kind of gives me a leg up, I think, in the voting process here.
I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, I don't know if I'd really say that.
That's weird. It's a really strange thing to say as the guy running the podcast, but okay.
The campaigning starts now, I suppose. Okay, guys.
Point of clarification: this is not necessarily. Is this up to a vote? Is this best, or is this just best for us?
The people vote. The people will vote.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I was in last place last time, Jonathan, so I've got to really sort of up my game. And
I've tried contesting the last election. I'm not sure what was going on there. Let me just say, Mark went on a trip, and while he was on the trip, his votes skyrocketed through the roof. I think there was some
collusion
happening, some collusion, some lobbying, various activity.
I don't want to get into
collusion, Kazi, for sure.
Well, I can go down knowing at least I stayed true to myself, I guess.
Okay, guys, we've got a couple of things left to do still. First of all, we've got to recap our collections and how they look, and then we've got to talk about anything that was missed throughout the process. Let's just do it in order. Jonathan, you want me to read off what you got?
Go for it, Tony.
Okay. So with the first overall pick, you took the Rolex Explorer 16570 with a black dial. For your dress watch, you took the Longa Saxonia Thin, the white gold one with the blue dial and white gold sort of speckles in it. Made of dreams, as Danny so eloquently put it. For your complication, you took the Vacheron 1942 triple calendar. And for your budget, to wrap it all up, you had the G-Shock DW5600. Okay, what do you guys think? Anything you want to say or critique about Jonathan's collection? It's
16570 white dial's much better. But
that's not even a question.
Also, just like not the Rolex of the last 24 years. Just also going to say that.
Maybe not, but this is like point of clarification on the rules. Is this supposed to be representative?
I still don't fully understand.
It is. I want to be clear with you guys. It's too late to go over the rules.
Okay.
I think you guys are getting hung up on the rules and trying to use them as an excuse for putting together mediocre collections, if I may say.
Not
Speaking of mediocre collections, Tony, could I read Danny's picks?
Please, please do. I would love nothing more.
I have a sick list. Just saying, it's a winner.
Let's let the audience decide, Danny.
So with Danny's 4 picks for sport, he went with the original Tudor Black Bay with the blue bezel, a great choice from Tudor, a weird choice within the family of the Black Bay, but we understand the concept.
I've watched it the last 24 years.
Next up, for dress, we've got the Cartier Santos Dumont Lacquer Rose Gold. This is a fantastic pick. I absolutely adore this watch. I really genuinely love it. Next up, we've got, for complication, another great choice, the AP RD2. Kind of the peak of the brand's work in Perpetual Calendar Royal Oaks. Hard to go wrong there. I'm a big fan.
Perpetual Calendar the last 24 years.
Okay. He said it. I may not agree with it. It may not be true, but he did say it. Finally, we have Danny's budget pick, which is the Moon Swatch in the Neptune colorway, very Daniel Craig. Those are Danny's 4, and I think largely like a pretty solid 4-watch pick. If I'm being fair, I think the dress watch is the kind of standout pick in my mind. That will be, hit the show notes if you don't remember that watch from a couple years back. It's a real stunner for sure. Thank you for allowing me that, Tone. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm not going to allow you to do your own.
No, of course not.
Own collection, nor should I.
Be against the rules.
Well, I make the rules, James. So do whatever we want. Okay, James for his sports watch chose the Omega Seamaster 300 2254, black dial, sword hands, slippery bezel, as you put it.
V-slip.
For his dress watch, he chose, as you may remember, he chose it from his last fantasy draft as well, the Grand Seiko SBGW 252. That is a anniversary watch in gold. Is that right, James?
Yep, correct. Yellow gold.
Yellow gold. Okay. 37 millimeters, maybe, just a sort of a classic Grand Seiko. Okay. For your complication, you went with the JLC Deep Sea Chronograph. And then finally, for your budget, you went with the Citizen Aqualand. It's the 17W with the sort of a loom dial.
JP 2007 17W.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Aqualand loom dial, I think, will probably be okay.
All right. Aqualand loom dial and a very James Stacey collection. Let's see. We could probably critique it in places if we wanted to, but why would we? Why would we do that, guys? Danny, anything you want to say about your colleague's collection?
I didn't know we could pick. I mean, again, I'm unclear on the rules. I didn't know we could pick a watch that we picked in the last draft, in this draft, but that's fine.
I mean,
it's fine.
It's allowed simply because the rules are on a document that you were sent, and it didn't say we couldn't.
It's okay. It's okay.
That'd be such a weird rule to have, Danny.
I just didn't know. I didn't really know any of the rules.
Listen, you could go both ways. Like, James, why don't you put yourself out there a little bit, choose a new watch, but also a good watch is a good watch. You can sort of argue it both ways.
So out there.
I've been out there for too long. What's the opposite of out there? I would like to retreat.
She's our Hodinkee turtle.
So I guess I'll present my own little collection here at the end. I had for my sport watch, the Bulgari Octo Finissimo. This is the 10th anniversary sketch edition. Some have called the Bulgari Octo Finissimo the best, most innovative sort of new sport watch of the past decade. So that's a good addition to the collection for me. For my dress watch, I had the FP Journe Resonance subscription that was introduced in the year 2000, and some have called sort of the defining complicated dress watch of the past 24 years. So another great addition to my collection. Next, I had the Patek 3670A chronograph as my complicated watch. And finally, I had the budget watch my Seiko SKX013, kind of the enthusiast pick. So that's my collection. Guys, we chose a great variety of watches, 16 different brands, 16 different watches. Surely things were left off the list though. Is there anything you guys want to call out as being kind of blatant omissions by us that we should talk about before we close off this thing?
When you say that, do you mean brands we didn't say or watches we didn't say from brands we did say?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean both
Nice.
of those things. So
if Omega had been taken, I probably would have gone AP for sport watch because the Royal Oak Offshore Diver remains a watch I would very much like to own someday.
Interesting.
I love the early one, the simple black dial one, but the funky colors they did a little later, the boutique ones where they did one in navy blue with yellow accents. That was pretty hot.
Yeah.
If I was allowed to pick Rolex, I would have been in two places. I would have probably gone ceramic Daytona and steel or Batman.
Right.
For what I would consider to be emblematic of the last 24 years by my metrics that I devised 5 minutes into the draft after I figured out what the rules were.
Right. I had the Tank Auguchet.
I had that too, actually.
Just such a cool watch.
Oh, that's really cool.
They're so much fun every time you see them.
So I was Googling that to see if there was one released, and there was a limited edition rose gold in 2004 is what I had in my notes, right, James?
That's what I found
my
as well.
two JLCs were going to be the Geophysique or the Master Control Sector dial, that LE in blue. Both of those were
the chronograph?
No, just the time only.
Is that the Geophysique with the dead second?
True beat. Yep.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Good That's pick. Really cool.
I also had the Tribute to 1931.
I had that one,
which I think was like a pretty fun moment in
that's nice.
Post 2000s watches, kind of the early moves in the revival scene. Oh, I also had this isn't really surprising to most people, but if Vacheron had stayed on the list a little longer, if I needed something else for complication, that Everest Dual Time remains a fave. But talk about something I've picked in other drafts. So
yeah,
that's a great what Zach, our friend Zach Pena has that watch. No,
I believe he had. I'm not sure that he still does. I haven't seen
it
recently,
watch.
But very cool watch.
Shout out to Zach, good guy.
Shout out Zach, good. Dude,
I've shouted out two Zachs on this podcast and no one else.
It's a Zach attack for sure.
Yeah,
I had a number of independents we could have listed. MB&F. I had the sequential chronograph.
Budget pick for sure, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about that for budget. I had the sequential chronograph. I had the LN Perpetual. I ended up going Jorn instead, I guess. Could have obviously gone with RecChap. Could have gone with the Simplicity. Richard Mille. You could have gone with
any number of directions.
Yeah,
to be honest,
Yeah, I had some RMs on the list. I had an Urwerk 103 on the list. You could go on with the independents. Like, you're never going to run out of independents. There's been a real boom in the past 24
years is a long time.
So it is. I'm curious, did anyone have Omegas on the list? They went off the board pretty quickly, obviously, second overall pick. I was going to choose the Caliber 321 Speedmaster in stainless steel if Omega fell to me. But I'm curious if anyone had any other Omegas on their radar.
I would have chosen the Seamaster Railmaster from like 2013, 14, 15, whatever that was.
Okay.
The early Planet Ocean stuff I still remain a pretty big fan of. The 42 with the gray bezel I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah, I briefly considered a Planet Ocean.
They make some great stuff. I mean, that's a brand that you could do a draft of just Omegas. And maybe that's something we do in the future. They just make a ton of different models. But that 2254 is always kind of stuck with me. So I
you talked about that one for years. That comes up on a lot of podcasts. You and Cole used to wax horological about that watch quite often.
It's a winner for sure.
Hey, Tony, I got a question for you. A few podcasts ago, you wrote a letter into the podcast.
I wrote a letter into the podcast.
An anonymous letter, a collector's advice about a travel watch.
I remember that. Yeah.
Did you ever get it?
No, not yet.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, I know. I suppose Geneva would have been a good opportunity. I thought about buying a Moonswatch. I feel like everyone bought a Moonswatch except me last week, but I did not.
That's true. They were stocked.
Yeah. Do you want to see what I bought instead? We've got a minute, I suppose. You want to see what I got instead? At the little 1 second. I got to go off camera for just a second.
See you, Tony.
I've actually got my Moonswatch on today. I haven't taken it off.
What's up? What's up?
Thank you guys again.
Yeah, man.
Danny, is that the first Moonswatch you've owned?
Second. I bought. Was that a serious question?
No, it was serious. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I only I only ever owned one, and I bought it like 2 years after the watch came out. I bought it literally at Swatch Omega, or I guess Swatch HQ in BL last year.
Oh,
Pluto.
gotcha.
Yeah, sort of cement the occasion.
Gotcha. This is what I got at a little, just like they have lots of flea markets over the weekend in Geneva. It's like an Omega money clip situation.
Oh,
It's
look
kind of
at
cool,
that.
right? It's kind
Very
of
cool.
cool. I don't know. The dial's kind of beat up, but it's got these like nice brigade numerals at 12, 3, and 9, I suppose. It seems to be running.
Was it that big flea market, like in that park with the nice like little like stone gate out front? I forget where.
Think I won't try to pronounce the location, but surely we're
Yeah.
talking about the same thing.
I think we are. Yeah.
But it was bumping because I think a lot of sort of people were just there for the weekend because of all the shows and stuff. But anyway, anything else we want to say about the draft before we leave it, guys? Any overarching thoughts about the 21st century of watchmaking? It's been a crazy 24 years, guys. I'm just glad we were here to witness it.
I agree.
It's been great.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's been so long?
That's what I'm saying, guys. I think
who didn't have to worry about Y2K was the mechanical watch industry. I mean, that is just for certain.
Yeah, well, you guys with your quartz watches, maybe you had to on some level. I'm not sure. I'd have to really think about that one. But yeah, I mean, those clocks keep on ticking, baby. Are we going to do a vote on this one? I guess we should probably do a vote like we usually do with these drafts.
Leave it to the fans. I mean, I think James tried to sandbag my collection, and then while reading it, realized it was quite good. Which is one
like you got one or two gems in.
One of my favorite moments of the pod today was sort of like, can I read it? And then while reading it was like, wait, this is quite phenomenal.
I mean, it's a good collection. I'm not sure it's the one that would win.
It's one of the best I think it's one of the best ones.
It's in the running from today's draft.
Yeah, top 4. The issue you have, the James fanboys are going to come out because he chose a very James Stacey collection. So they're going to come out in full force in a way they probably didn't when Haldeman was on the board or on the team. The issue you have, Danny, is a lot of people don't like the Moonswatch. A lot of people don't like Moonswatch Milton, I should say. So that's gonna divide the people a little bit.
Let me unpack that last one. if my nickname is Moonswatch Milton, then a lot of people don't like me.
No. Listen, I just gave you this nickname. I think I'm not sure people are actually calling you this.
Sure.
But maybe it'll stick. I don't know. I mean, you try things out on these podcasts, and look, sometimes they stick.
Let's just let the voters vote.
No, certainly. So if you're listening, if you made it this far, then first of all, God bless you, and second of all, go to the article on Hodinkee.com, and you'll see a poll there towards the end. It'll have all of our names, and you'll just want to click the drop down and go to probably the 4th one will be Tony, and you'll just want to click that name and vote, and we'll announce the winner in a few weeks. Does that sound good to everyone?
Does that sound like campaigning at the ballot box? I don't think
the one thing I just want to make something just like very quickly. There's a little bit of a glitch in the thing that measures the votes. So what you want to do is the first one doesn't count. So go in and just pick James, click submit, and then go back. And then now you're primed and you can actually like vote for the one you want.
He doesn't get it. Doesn't understand the system. Vote once, but to test that vote on my name to make sure the voting system works.
I wouldn't give Danny a vote for telling you to do exactly what I just told you to do, almost like it's a novel idea.
I think we covered it, guys. So thank you all for listening. And of course, thank you to my draftors and the panelists for building their collections, representing the best, representing some of their favorite watchmaking of the 21st century. And we'll be back again. Next week, guys. And I will say, we're not going to talk about new watches again next week because it's going to be auction season. So I'm going to have a different panel on, and we're going to be talking about auctions and everything to expect from that. So look forward to that, everyone. But thanks again for listening.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Make sure you vote for Jonathan, by the way.